makeshift studio.
Oh, nice. It looks good. I like it.
What words or descriptions come to mind when you think of Kenauk?
That's a good question. What words come to mind when I think of Kanak? I would say like tranquility, very peaceful, very natural, lots of forest and animals, maybe sanctuary.
Kenauk is like nature in its purest form, I feel like. Like it's many parts of it are untouched. There's not a lot of sound pollution or light pollution. It's very calm and very secluded and secret.
Kanak is about going back in time. So if you want to see what nature looked like 400 years ago, you come to Kanak. It's like a time machine. That's what Kanak looks like.
I actually grew up on the Kenauk property. As a kid, my father was the general manager of the property, so I grew up here. So the Kenauk Reserve is located right between Ottawa and Montreal, and it's 65,000 acres in size of pristine forest and more than 60 lakes, so very large property.
There's no places in Eastern Canada now when you're swimming in the lake, once in a while you pop up your head and there's a snake like this big, this long, looking at you, and you're looking at it, you're like, wow, what are you doing here? There's no place in Eastern Canada where you pick up your cup of coffee, you go on the dock in the morning, and an otter floats by, looks at you, and says, what are you doing here? You're in my place. Like, what gives? And that's magical. So why not? It's right here. Let's do it. Let's protect it.
So the Kanak Institute is a charitable organization with the goal of creating a long-term research station. There are 3 tenets that the Kenauk Institute is using to try and accomplish this goal. We have ecological research, education, and conservation.
So the creation of an open air lab is this idea that the forest is the lab for our biologists. So we can have graduate students, professors, students come on the property and use the forest, the water, the lakes, the rivers, everything as part of their lab that they can come and study and use to collect data for their research projects.
Biologists, hydrologists, like you name it, environmental science, they're all knocking at our door. Can we play on your playground? Like, it's just extraordinary.
Having these long-term data sets allows us to compare year to year, decade to decade. If you don't do that, if you don't create a foundation and a base of knowledge of what we have in the property, it's really hard to notice changes over time, and it's hard to then protect and manage accordingly.
What makes a good researcher?
A good researcher is someone that is passionate. As long as you're passionate, the rest can be taught.
One of the most important skills that a good researcher should have is tenacity and determination.
A lot of people can get really frustrated really quickly, but like when you're in the field and you have no resources at all, you have to really be mindful and thoughtful of what you can do. And it definitely takes that skill to be able to assess, be calm, and improvise for sure. Improvising is like, you're always gonna have to do that.
So many things go wrong all the time.
So my research project is on bats. Basically for my project, I'm using a drone to carry a recording device. So it was basically this battle throughout the beginning of the summer to find a small enough recording device and a quiet enough drone that's still strong enough to carry the recording device. And I was out every night testing different setups, and almost all of them didn't work, and then one of them worked, and that's all we needed.
There's a whole bunch of different kinds of topics that you can tackle. You can be focused on, a little bacteria or a little fungi that's in the soil, but then you always have to keep that big picture in mind of how does that fungi, that mushroom affect the forest as a whole? How are they interconnected? How is it linked? Because there's always a link. So you have to always keep that in mind.
Here at the Kenauk Institute, we have lots of internship programs for elementary school students, high school students, and even university students. For the younger crowd, I would say the elementary high schoolers, the main thing that I want to instill in them is an interest in ecology and biology. It doesn't even need to be a passion, but just a curiosity, I would say. The internship program with the university students, the main thing that I'd like to instill in them is confidence. And so the goal of this internship really is to get women in STEM out in the field, learning these skills and gaining the confidence so that when they go out in the real world, they don't feel that imposter syndrome.
It's definitely made me consider going into the academic world a lot more. I never really thought that I would want to do that. Before starting at Kenauk, had no idea what it was like. I just kind of figure, oh, you're outside, it's buggy, you're using instruments that don't really work outdoors. And it's a little bit of that. It's definitely making do with not a lot of resources, but there's a lot of room to create solutions and create tools that other people might not ever have to use. Or they might really need to use, and suddenly you've made it a thing.
I've realized what really goes into research. It doesn't always work the way you want it to. And like I was saying before, there's so many failures leading up to that one success, but I think that makes it even more rewarding in the long run.
People always ask me, why did you buy Kanak? What did you? And I tell people, 200 years from now, there's going to be somebody at Kanak. Like everything else is going to be, like the world's going to look completely different. But Kanak is going to continue to be this kind of like benign neglect oasis of like everything is here. And I don't know about the rest of the world, but this will be. And somebody will be standing here and all they're going to say is, I don't know who thought about that 200 years ago, but that was a goddamn good idea.
One reward in working in the conservation space is being a part of something bigger than myself.
I feel really hopeful about conservation because every day that I go to work, I contribute to conservation.
Working with people who are also like equally or even more passionate than I am about what they're doing is very, very motivating, and seeing how passionate they are inspires me to just keep working hard at what I'm doing.
The damage that's been done is done. We can't, we have to look and learn our lessons, but we also have to focus on the future and what we can do to make it better. I see hope in the future. I see, a world where, the next generation will hopefully really hold the environment close to their heart and they'll do whatever they can to protect it.